Alright, so today we're going to be creating a very simple prime number generator. And in this prime number generator, all we want is the first 10 prime numbers. So I know that the 10th prime number is 29. So I'm going to generate numbers from 2 to 30. Alright, so for I in range 2 to 30, my bad, 2 to 30 or 30, yes, 30. What do I want to do? Well, let's think about actually how this prime number generator is going to work. So we have our numbers, okay? The number that we want to check if it is prime is going to be stored in our I variable. Now we want to create another variable, all right? And we want to keep on checking. So let me go ahead and show you via Paintbrush, okay? Paintbrush is a fantastic tool. I'm going to go ahead and open it up and let me show you guys how this is going to work. So explaining is a bit tough for me, especially how this this is going to work, but one sec. My bad. So okay. All right. So let's take 5 numbers for example. I'm going to take 10, 11, 12, 13 and 14. How is this going to work? So these 5 numbers are stored in our I variable, okay? Once our for loop runs, these 5 numbers will eventually come. Now, the way this prime number generator is going to work is we're going to take another variable. We're going to call it j, okay? J's value is going to start from 2 and it's going to go all the way up till this number or less than this number. So J's condition is going to be J has to be less than 10 or less than I. This is the condition we're creating over here. J has to be less than I. Alright. Now once this condition is true, we want to check if I percent J is equal to 0. What does this mean? If I percent J is equal to 0, we know that this number is not a prime number, okay? If I percent 0 or I percent j is not equal to 0, then we increase j by 1, okay? This whole loop keeps on repeating until j becomes equal to I. And when that happens, we know that I is a prime number. So this may have been a little bit confusing to you. Listen to this again, and once we write the code, you'll actually understand what's happening. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this or close this. And I'm going to get started on this code. So we have for I in range 2, 30. So I'm going to initialize my j variable over here. J is now going to be equal to 2. So while j is less than I, okay, while j is less than I, what do I want to do? Well, I want to say if I percent j is equal to 0, alright, if I percent j is equal to 0, so what I want to do is, before I actually even add the function over here, if I percent j is equal to 0, I want to create a variable called counter and set that equal to 0. So if I percent j is equal to 0, this means that if the I number is divisible at all, okay, then I want to set counter equal to 1. Else, I want to increase j by 1. So j should be equal to j plus 1. So this cycle will keep on going until j is no longer greater than I, or j is no longer less than I. And then what we can do is say if counter is equal to 1, right? If counter is equal to 1, then print I plus is a prime number, okay? And then we want to set counter equal to 0, all right? So I think this should work, and don't worry, I'll explain the code. But let's go ahead and run this. Let me take a look here. Looks like it wants an else statement. So else print, whoops, caps lock on. Else print hi, something random. I'll tell you something later, but right now it's... So it looks like this isn't running. Alright, so I got the code to work, and I'm sorry I didn't show you what I was doing, but I was running into an error, and I fixed it, but your code should look something like this. And let me go ahead and explain what I'm doing. For I in range 2, 30, basically this is going to generate the numbers 2 to 29. Then I'm setting our divisor variable. This is j is equal to 2. So j is a divisor variable, and we're dividing I by j. So we have a counter variable called 0. While j is less than I, we never want our divisor to be equal to our main, what we're dividing. So just like with prime numbers, a prime number is a number which is divisible by itself and 1. If j becomes equal to I, then that fits the value of dividing it or divisible by itself, which we don't want. That's why we've said while j is less than I. Then we're checking if I is divisible by j. Now if I is divisible by j, we're setting counter as 1. And when we set counter as 1, that means the number is not prime. It's a no-no. We don't want this number to be added to our list of primes. And in any case whatsoever, if it's divisible or if it's not, we want j to increase by 1 since we've already checked if it's divisible or not. Then we're checking over here if counter is equal to 0. So throughout this whole while statement, if the number wasn't divisible by any of the other numbers and it still remains 0, we're printing out string of I. So str is a function in which we can convert integers to strings, is a prime number, else counter is equal to 0. So this if and else statement basically checks if counter is equal to 0, we're printing that this is a prime number, else that means that counter is equal to 1, and we're setting counter back to 0. So if I run this, I get 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, 29 are all prime numbers. Fantastic. So this was a very simple way to generate the first 10 prime numbers. We've used nested loops in this code. We have learned about the string function, which converts integers to strings, and we learned about nested if and else statements, stuff like that, but definitely a fun project. So you can go ahead and expand on this. You can make it go to 100, 200, whatever you want. I will be providing the source code for this, don't worry. So in case your code went wrong or you're doing a mistake, definitely download the source code in the next lecture and have a great day. So what we're going to do next is let's go ahead and discuss, let's take a look. What's next in our... Alright, fantastic. So great job on this project. I have the source code ready. In case you have an error or something, please definitely drop or download the source code and take a look at my code versus your code. If you have a question how things worked, again, I agree I didn't explain it too well at the end. I got a little caught up in some error and then I fixed it myself. But if you have any questions on how this works or why that, definitely drop a question. I'll get back to it as soon as I can. And that's it. See you in the next lecture.